Someone You Should Know. A program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sachs, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sachs.
Welcome to another episode, whatever it is, of Someone You Should Know. Glad to have you with us again. As I usually do at the beginning of the show, I hope everyone is well, dealing with all the challenges that we've got going around. But at least for 1 hour every week, you can stop into the studio and visit with me and a very special guest. And my very special guest, I have known almost my whole life and almost all of her own life. I have Jean Bisbee Smith with me. And welcome, Jeannie.
Thank you, Stu. It's great to be here. This is really fun.
It's so good to see you again. Jeannie and I have, I don't even remember what age we were when we first met. We were probably 11, 12 years old or so back in Hammond, Indiana. And we kind of grew up together and went to high school together, and we've reconnected over the years. And Jeannie has been one of the major forces behind some of our reunions that we've had over the years. And Jeannie went on to do her own thing for many years, and all of a sudden she just got her hands into clay and became a ceramicist. Is that what it's called? Are you a ceramicist? Is that the term that you use? Can you hear me okay? Are you there, Jeannie? Wasn't sure if I missed you or not.
Uh-oh.
Let me see if I hear anything this way.
I just...
Are you there? Are you there?
Yes, I sort of lost you there, sound.
Oh, okay. I was talking a little bit about us growing up, and you started working in clay, and I was asking you, the correct term is a ceramicist.
Oh, okay. I refer to myself as a ceramic sculptor.
Ceramic
I'm not.
sculptor.
Yeah, I make kind of three-dimensional things for the wall, for the floor, and to hang. And those are sculptures. The potter would be the person that makes the throws on the wheel and makes things, maybe dinnerware, mugs, and that kind of thing.
Vases and cups and bowls and things like that. Now, is that considered to be three-dimensional art also?
Well, yeah, I guess it is too. I really, that's a good question. Art, yes, it's art, and it's functional art. Mine is more, there's just a visual to look at.
Yours is decorative, and
that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
we all, it slips sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So when did you actually start in ceramic art? Start, with all of this process? Because what you're doing today is not what you were doing years ago. Right.
No, I've been an artist pretty much full time since 1986. And that's when I joined a co-op gallery, and I was doing oil paintings, and it's kind of based on the Southwestern theme of colors, blue, red, kind of Indian, the American Indian style. And I was doing that. I was doing silkscreen prints too, and Polaroid transfers. I was doing a variety of things, and about in 1990, then this one friend of mine said, "Hey, did you ever work in clay?" And I said, "Yeah, in college, and all we ever had was brown or blue." And she goes, "Well, I've got a studio in my basement. Why don't you come over and we'll just play around with the clay?" And so I went over to her place, and we started creating things, and we were thinking about food at that time. And so she was working in Let's see. I was doing the more dessert kind of things, and a plate of spaghetti or a plate of this or that. And she was doing maybe she did a turkey, like a Thanksgiving turkey. Anyway, we worked for a while, and then we decided there was another friend of ours who was interested, so she joined us. And so we had Carol Lee and Irene and myself, and we meet about every week in her studio in her basement. And then we got into Julia Child, and and we would bring food to eat at when we were in between when we were working, and then we'd go, woo, you know how Julie always did, and we'd make our food and we'd have a lot of fun with that. So we started creating a whole body of work that was food related. And I was doing cakes and of these plates of food, and Carol Lee was doing more like sundaes. She did some pies, and Irene was doing more like vegetable things. And as we were working along, we decided, well, we have a show here. We have a show that we need to get a place to show this stuff. So we contacted one of the artists, one of the gallery owners in Denver, and said, we would like to show you what we've been doing. We've been working on this food stuff. And so we took my living room and got everything cleared out and made it like a gallery. And we invited her over, and she came, and she was blown away. She was really excited about it. So she gave us a show, and that kind of was the beginning of more things. But it was a lot of fun. And from food, I went then, after I finally made the wedding cake, I said, I'm done with food. I think it's time to go to flowers. And so I was influenced by George Alexander, and I saw some of his work in a gallery in Santa Fe, and he made these wonderful totem things that were all with flowers and everything on them. And I went, man, I'm going to make that stuff. So I started with flowers, and I did bouquets, I did individual flowers. Then I got the magazines where you can order flowers from, and I would kind of use those images to make my productions of them. And then I had a bunch of years of flower shows. And I guess at some point I decided I needed to do something more serious.
One thing I want to establish with the audience that's watching and listening too is that you're based in Denver, Colorado. You've been out there for many years. And what you just told us about raises kind of a question in my head, and that is, we see through different eyes. When you see things, you mentioned making pies and cakes, and right away I'm thinking, gee, there would be a great market for that, like in the real estate market for staging homes, where people want to come in and show their home for resale. Sometimes they say make a plate of cookies or something to give an aroma to it. But I can just see having ceramic pies and cakes and things like that in the kitchen to add that extra ambiance, to the setting. Also, when you go into a bakery, sometimes they can't always have fresh product on display. So if you can recreate something in ceramic, it lasts forever. I think my mother used to have a bowl of clay fruit on the dining room table, with clay bananas and oranges and pears and stuff like that. And they were all ceramic. Now you usually find them in plastic. But when you when you see something, wherever you go, be it a piece of sports equipment or some food or something, do you see it through ceramic eyes? Do you say, gee, that would be kind of fun to create that in clay?
Yeah, I do. I see a lot of things. There are a lot of things that I look at. I think, gee, I wonder if I could make that out of clay. Yeah, and just anywhere I go, I think a lot of art people think in terms of that. You think in terms of colors, shapes, subject matter, and how could I make that in my way? a little
Yeah.
different.
I mean, because when you create it, I mean, it's lasting. So if it's a perishable item, like apples and fruits and vegetables and things like that, once you do it in clay, it's there. It's there.
I did have a baker. A baker did buy some of my cakes and put them in his store.
Yeah, and
That was
somebody would
pretty
come in and
fun.
say, I'd like one of those. Well, you
Yeah.
can't have that one because
But
it's made
I
out of
didn't
clay.
sell any to any other kind of baker people, but it could be a possibility if I want to revisit.
Well, I remember several years ago, and that was when one of those times that we reconnected. You were doing some shoes, and all, and I grew up in the shoe business and all, and I wrote to you and I said, "Geez, I would love to get a sandal or something because I was collecting little miniatures, and you did a sandal for me out of clay, which I still have, and it's
Good. Yes, that was a great show. It was three of us. We did. It was called Accessorize Me, and I did shoes, hats, and purses,
purses.
all in clay. And another woman did jewelry and crowns, and the third woman did like paintings of shoes. And we made the show sort of like a boutique, and had a lot of fun with that. And I sold a lot of that stuff too.
So when you get together and you collaborate on something like that, you said there were three of you. You all take like an area and you create it out. Were they also in clay, working in clay?
No,
They were
no, we each
different.
had our own medium. I was
Okay.
the clay, so all of my things were clay things. Gee, I wish I would have thought about bringing some of those here to. They're all kind of stored away, the ones that I have left over, but they were all real things. Like I used my shoes as visual, and I used my hats as a visual. And a friend of mine had a big purse collection, so I went over to her place and took a bunch of pictures, and then used those, to do the purses. And another friend, she was with the crowns. She just made them. She had us a whole bunch of jewelry and odds and ends, and so she just decorated a basic hat shape with all these jewels. And that was a lot of fun. And the third woman was she did paintings, so she had stuff on the wall, like you would have a shoe advertisement or something. She did that on the wall.
So I've always felt like that everyone has some degree of artist in them. It may be stick figures, and it could be, a Van Gogh type talent. But how does somebody that might say, I think I could do that, what's the best thing to do? To sign up for an art class or something to just explore your inner artist?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And sometimes I do workshops. I don't do, as you can, I don't know, you can't see the whole studio down here, but it's jam packed. And I can have about maybe 2, maybe 3 people in the room with me. Otherwise, there's no more room to work. So I have in the past, I have cleared off the table back there, and had 3 kids, and we did containers. And I did do some summer camps at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center here, for 10 years. I did a couple clay camps every summer. We did garden gnomes was a favorite subject. We did those, and sometimes we did food. And that was a lot of fun because the kids had a blast with that. I made tacos and sundaes and that kind of stuff. And then I did an artist in residence at an elementary school for about 10 years, and that was the January, February, March, April, the first quarter of the year. And we usually did some kind of a container each time, when I'd have 2 groups, and we would work. Let's see, how many days a week did we? I think we worked twice a week. 2 times. No, maybe it was every day. It's been a couple of years since I did that, so I think it was. But that was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to work with kids, and they have ideas, and to make it out of clay, there's something about the texture the clay texture that you like to work with. You like to get your hands in it and move it around, and that's what I like about it too.
Now, what tell me, and also tell the audience, well, what is the process? Right behind you on the table, you've got a big block of clay right there.
I do. Let me go over there.
Okay. I'm curious because you start with just this big block.
This is what I start with. This is 25 pounds. And I take it and cut it in half so that it's like this.
It's like a big brick.
And it's like a big brick.
Yeah.
And then I take this tool over here that's a meat tenderizer, but it's also a hammer. And I pound it down. Okay, pretend I pounded it way down. And then the next step, this is a slab roller. This table is a slab roller. I put it in between the two pieces of material. I've got everything on top of it, so I can't do that right now. But then I stick it here, and this is the thing that will roll it out and make it thinner. So it rolls and rolls, and then I keep turning it so that until it gets thinner and thinner, and then that's the thickness that I work with. And then I build things out of that. So that's, the slab roller is my best friend.
So that
should I come around again?
Like a pasta maker.
Well, should I show you something that I've been making?
So I started to say that it's kind of the process of when you take dough to make pasta. You keep rolling it thinner and thinner until it's a consistency and the shape that you want in order to make it.
Well, now I can't hear you.
So once you roll it on the slab roller, you get it to the thickness that you want. Is that when you start to form it into the shapes that you want? Can I hear you? I think maybe. Well, maybe Mark, if you've got, are you there, Gene? We're just fading out a little bit on the sound. I was going to say, Mark, you had Jean's website showing some of the items that she has been working on. And this is what we were talking about.
Here's the flour.
Okay,
and it's made of all these petals. And when I have the clay all set up, then I use this template right here. Here, maybe I should go back over here. So pretend that the clay is here, and I put my template on it, and then I'm going to take my knife here, and I'm going to make them all, make a whole strip of this. And then I'm going to take this thing right here and cut off these little petals.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then I kind of put them all together. I like to use this roller here to make the clay a little bit thinner, because of the leaves, the petals of the flower are, thinner than the end, the thin and then thicker. So put it all together, and actually I use, maybe I'll run over here. Where did I put those?
It's a fascinating process, especially when, you think of the layering that's involved to take the pieces and give them that three-dimensional look.
Okay.
So now this is one that has been fired already.
This one has not been fired yet.
Okay.
It's still finishing drying, and it was started out in this little bowl here.
Okay.
To get that shape. This is a bowl I made using a shape to go over it so that I can use it over and over and over. Here's one that's already been fired. It turns white after it's been fired. And now at this point, I can think about what color I want to make it and start glazing it. And then it'll go back in the kiln. So actually a lot of times I use a template out of a piece of paper
Oh,
to make
interesting.
my designs. But not so much with flowers. That just sort of happens. See how many will fit in the bowl. And then what do I want to do in the middle?
All right, and now the next step, and I'm going to ask Mark to put that photo up again from the gallery, because what's interesting is that you don't make these necessarily individual pieces just to sit on a surface by themselves. That you make them so they can either hang on the wall in like a what am I thinking of?
Well, like a wall. I just call them a wall installation.
Yeah, or a mobile type thing where it can hang by itself. You do totems, which I think are absolutely fascinating, because that way a lot of the pieces that you're doing now, am I correct? They have holes in them so that they can either be stacked, for use in the middle of a room, or they can be mounted onto a wall. And I guess it's fair to say you're only limited by your imagination.
Exactly. What I'm working in now is pretty much more the abstract shapes. But here's one right here. Let's see. There we go. And it has a hole, and I can look through it and see you.
Okay.
And this would be a hanging one or a totem, and it would go like this or like this. It depends on how it. When I start putting it together, I'll just make that decision then.
Now I'm looking at the surface of that, Jean, and it's kind of shades of blue on the outside surfaces. How do you create that finish?
Well, this is just a regular commercial glaze, and it happens in the kiln. I paint it on with the paintbrush, and then I put it in the kiln, and it cooks there for maybe up to 14 hours.
Wow!
And then it takes another about 14 hours for the kiln to cool off before you can look inside, and then you get Christmas. So look what's in there.
Yeah, when you paint the surface of that, is it a solid color?
This is, yes.
And then, so that texturing and shades of color, that is all up to the 14-hour process in the kiln.
Right, and it depends on the glaze. Now here's another kind. This is more. It's not as much variety, but you can see a little bit of different colors there. And I use two different color glazes in this one.
Show the edge.
And now this one's one for the wall.
Yeah, and am I correct? The reason that there's 4 different holes is because depending on where you put the nail into, it'll So
it depends on how you want to position it. When I get to that point of making a collection of things, then I kind of do that on a table and set it all up, and then take a picture of it, and then I know what to do. Actually, then I make a template, and a template is out of craft paper, and they just put it down on the table, and you put your design there, put all the pieces down where you want them, and draw around them. Okay, so then you have the whole thing on a piece of paper, and you take each piece off one at a time, and then you put it back on the paper and turn it over so you can rub where these holes are. And then you decide, how do I want it to hang? And you put a nail hole.
Right.
If I wanted to hang here or here, it would be there. So you have a whole template thing that you put on the wall. And then you punch all the holes, put all the nails in, take the template off, and then start putting up the pieces.
So depending on which hole you use, it can be horizontal. It can have a vertical look to it, and
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
space them to. I want you to show a little bit closer to the camera to the side, the edges of that, because that is fascinating to me.
Okay. This is done, of course, when the clay is soft, and I use a stamp. Let me just run over and get that stamp.
Yeah, because what again is fascinating to me is that this is what, about 4 inches wide, and so you have that's where that 3 dimension is,
Right.
and so if you're approaching it from the side, you get another idea of what it looks like.
Okay, here's the tool I used. It's like a fake underwater thing,
Yeah,
and you just
looks
do
like
this.
a crustacean or of some sort,
Uh-huh.
a
Yeah,
coral.
like coral. Yeah, that's that's the word. That's the word. So anyway, I can show you from my little book that has some of these in if you would like me to.
Yeah, and while you're going through that, how did you get from, you said you were doing pies and cakes, and then you started doing some flowers and all. Where does the thought process come that all of a sudden this abstract idea?
It
Uh,
came in the fact that I spent so many hours with my glazing brush painting all those things. I went, I've got to swim out of this. I've got to swim out of this and do something that has bigger strokes. And so that's how this came about. And I thought, what can I do? And I thought, well, I can just use general shapes. And then to make it a contrast between the edge, like we were looking at with the texture, and the front part with the smooth glaze. And then from there, it was like, well, what can I do? Then I got to put them together in an interesting way. It's hard to, there. There's
right.
two of them. And each
Now,
of those are individual.
is that something that you show or sell as a grouping?
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
also, if an individual says, "I just have maybe an area in my guest bath that I would love to take about 5 or 6 pieces and put them together," then they can order them individually.
Yes, they can. And that's how, when I have an art show, I put these up. These are on the wall.
Oh, that's
And I
amazing.
have maybe a dozen of them, 12 or so at any given show, because they can take, you know, 5 feet wide. They can be 5 feet wide or less.
This might be a
And
good time to let the listeners and viewers know that you can go to Gene B as in boy Smith.com. It's a real toughie, genebsmith.com. And you can view a lot of the things that Gene is doing, and you can even, that's the website. So there'll be information of if you need to call her. You do commissions also?
I do, yeah. Uh-huh.
And
I
and
do. If you see something you like, but you want it in a different color, I can do that. Or if you have a vision, we talk about it, and I can come up with it. So, but I would check in with the person that wants to, is this what you have in mind? Make a few sketches and
well,
see.
that's half the fun of having a custom piece, is to be able to do it in the colors that you want. And I like the shape of that, but I want it larger, and to put things together, because then you end up with something that is unique to yourself. It can never be duplicated exactly, because
Right.
I'm sure that every time you create the same shape, once you put it in the kiln is going to take over and turn it out to be the shade or whatever that it wants.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's
Well, and
a
you just never know. It's not mass produced. That would be, if you want to do that, you would do uh what would you do? You do a template that you could use over and over and over to be just the same.
like
And
the
then
clay
you would
apples and the clay oranges and the clay bananas and all
yeah,
of that.
you would probably pour it. The clay would be in more of a liquid state, and you would pour it, and then it would dry, and then you'd paint it, and they would all look the same. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that that technique. I guess I just like to have it a little different each time, and that's okay with me.
Well, I would think that
What else have I got?
Your
Okay,
collectors,
here's another.
I would think that your collectors would want it that way too. They basically like things to be a little bit different from time to time. Very cool. It's just a little fuzzy. I think something with the camera's not quite picking it up. Oh, wow.
Okay, then this has a different design on it. See how that goes? And then this is again the options
Right.
for to how to put it up.
I think that may be the thing that's
Here's
most
a brand
fascinating.
new. This is a brand new. This is a brand new shape I came up with. It's like a donut sort of.
Yeah, and so you have that same texturing both on the inside and on the outside.
Yes. The
Now, how
textured
heavy
one.
is that?
How heavy is it? Oh, maybe 3 pounds, 2 pounds.
Okay, because it's hollow on the inside.
That's right. It
Yeah.
is. Yep.
Because I'm just trying to imagine if that is done in a stacked form or so, how heavy is this going to be? But
Exactly.
Gosh, you can put up quite a few of those in a space that normally a large oil painting would take up.
Okay,
Oh,
here's what I use if I'm going to make a totem. It's a metal disc, and it's got pads on the bottom and a rod.
Okay.
Let me see if I can do that. Here, let me see if I can stack a few things here. All right.
And then
Oh, that one's just not big enough.
so this is something that you can predetermine what the stack is going to be, but the individual that buys it may say, 6 months, a year now, I think I'll take it apart and restack it a different way.
Exactly. That's true. I just kind of put these together, but it would take some time to make a really good one, and I've got them all. I'll have them all organized by shape and color, and then I just kind of bring them and test them. Like this might take something thin, might be nice here.
Right.
And then at the very top, I've got one that just has one hole. And so that would maybe be the top, but I would need another one in here.
And then you can just determine the height of the totem by the length of the bar.
Right. Yeah, and I've got a lot of these things. I call them spacers.
Yep.
And it's sort of like jewelry.
Yeah.
Sort of like putting a necklace together or bracelet together. It's the same idea, only with ceramic pieces.
And again, I'll remind those that are watching, the JeanBSmith.com. You can see some of the work that she's doing, and if you have questions, the email or her phone is right on the screen right now, and it's probably also on the website. Probably at this point, while Jean is moving around some of the pieces, showing you what she can create. Earlier this week, there was a big shout out from our old high school family, the classes of about 1962 to 65, 67. A lot of them are watching this morning, so I hope you are enjoying being with us and sharing the vision that Jean has and she's had for a long time. Did you go to art school specific, like right in, from high school, go to college to study art, or did you have a career before you became this budding artist?
Well, I was an art major in college. I went to Milton College in Wisconsin, a little liberal arts school, and you have to take all the liberal arts things. And I just decided that art was what I really liked to do the best. I wasn't really good at memorizing all these numbers, so or words, big words that I couldn't pronounce, but I could make things happen with my hands, and that's, I guess, what drove me there. And of course, Miss Schuhkegel, our art teacher at Hammond High, was like the most outrageous, fabulous person I'd ever met. And she had like 3 or 4 different colors of hair.
She was so ahead of her time. I think we all remember when we were growing up when Cyndi Lauper first came on the scene with
There you
with
go.
the multicolor hair. Was it Olga Schuhkegel?
Olga
Yeah,
Schuhkegel,
the
yeah.
art teacher in high school and everything. She was like strange, but it was because she was an artist.
She
You know,
wasn't like my mother.
no, and if you had this penchant for art, everybody wanted to be Mrs. Schuhkegel
Yeah,
because she was an artist inward and outward.
she was. She was. She lived it, and she wore great big huge jewelry, and she had real big painted lipsticks.
Yeah.
She was just wonderful, and she knew a lot of stuff. And she would take us to the Art Institute on a tour and behind the scenes and stuff like that. Yeah.
So
So when I got to college, then I
yep.
decided I wanted to be an art major, and had the school was small enough that there were not a lot of teachers. So I just mainly had one. We had Fred Escher was my teacher, and he had recently graduated from the University of Wisconsin from Madison. So he was only like 5 years older than the rest of us, and so it was kind of fun. And he was into neon, and so he was kind of exploring that. And so he taught ceramics, and he taught sculpture, and he taught 2D and 2D painting, and he pretty much taught everything. And then we had another woman that came down for drawing, and she taught the drawing class, and she was just taught that. I don't know who else. Oh, we had the art history teacher. The art history teacher, that's right. And we would sit there and look at the slides. And
that hanging piece is magnificent.
Now that hanging piece is not mine. That you're seeing right there, that's a friend of mine. We worked together on it. She had the vision, and she needed to make it out of clay. And so she came over to the studio, and we worked on it and made a whole bunch of pieces. And then she put them on a filament string thing, and put that together. Annette Coleman. And my stuff was on the back wall around.
When I look at what you're creating, I can see this as being something that might be of interest to like bank lobbies and building lobbies, airport, areas, and all, because it's modern, it's colorful. Oh, look at that. Really?
Yeah, those are the hanging pieces. That was a great show. And I had worked with another woman, and she did flat work. She did paintings. She did actually like monotypes on the wall. And so we kind of got together, and I did some 3-dimensional pieces that were the same shapes that she was using in her work. And it really made a nice show. Yeah.
I think that again, I keep going back and saying it, but the thing that fascinates me, and I have always been an art lover, and enjoy looking at artwork, but the majority of the artwork that we see is flat, one-dimensional, maybe two-dimensional, and hanging on a wall. If you're fortunate to go to sculptor gardens, and where you see sculptors, sculpt work in metal, and a variety, or topiary, if you will, that gives that 3-dimensional. You get a whole different feeling and appreciation for that kind of art. And yours kind of bridges both of those, because it is on the wall, it is freestanding, it is hangable, it's stackable. and you can change it out and make it different.
I do have a couple installations in a bank that I got just before the pandemic came in. We installed them in like 3 days before everything got shut down.
Wow.
Like, oh, thank you, thank you. I'm glad that came through. But yeah, that was fun. I worked with an art consultant, and we went up and installed them together at the bank, and the bank was just opening. And yeah, so that's kind of cool. You can see it in a business format, So
Now, is your husband Bob involved in art at all, or just art
his
appreciation?
occupation, he was a landscape architect for about 40 years. And so he did a lot of drawing in the early days. You didn't have all that computer. And so you did everything by pen. He did the Rapidograph pens and all those different color, like different color inks so he would do like an aerial view of the layout. Parks, he did bike trails. He was doing bike trails and small parks to begin with, and then he kind of moved into monuments. He did some memorials. He did the Columbine Memorial in Denver, which was to honor the people that got shot in the Columbine school about 20 years ago. Yeah, and what else did he do? He did worked with the Park Service through some of these things too. He did some World War II memorial in Atlantic City, and he did another World War II memorial in Trenton, New Jersey. And then he also worked with the Park Service out in they people to reconfigure the way the traffic flowed, and buildings, changed out buildings. And so he did a lot of interesting things. So yes, he's very creative.
It continues to be fascinating to me to kind of see how you have evolved over the years. Do you have
next?
Is there anything in the back of your head that is saying, okay, one of these days I'm going to.
What else can I show you?
Is there anything that's kind of different or that you're looking at to create in the future?
After this, what I'm working now, you think?
The artwork they're creating right now, is there anything else that you're thinking that maybe you want to try a new art form or something different with clay, or is it you just wait for it to just grab you? We seem to be having just a little bit of audio difficulty. Can you hear me, Jeannie? I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I do things for about 10 or 15 years at a time, and then I just decided I need to do something different. I feel like I've addressed all the things I can do.
I mean, I hate to use the word burnout, but you just kind of get to a point where you feel like I maybe have gone as far as I can with this idea, this concept.
Yeah. I think that's what moves me to the next thing. And that's what moved me to this, because it was so different than the other things I was doing. And I needed a change of pace. Now, a lot of people don't change very much. They have their look and they keep doing it almost their whole life. But I guess for me, it feels like it's not as much fun after 10 or 15 years of kind of doing the same thing. It's like, I think I'm going to try this.
You kind of get the idea that maybe a ceramic sculptor like yourself has the ability to make those kinds of changes rather than someone who maybe just deals with oils on canvas.
Well, they can change their way of doing it from being maybe more realistic to more abstract. A lot of people do move from reality to abstract things. I think it's because the same idea. They get tired of doing the same thing and they think, I need bigger motions. I need bigger statements. And a lot of what came out with this stuff was I had a studio that was not in my basement for 7 years in a building that was waiting for the for the people to kind of come to that part of town. It was like the north part of downtown. It was the Rhino District. And so we got a really good deal for a studio. And then we had eventually a bunch of us made a gallery too. But by being in a big space that wasn't all filled in like this, and the ceilings were tall, and we had these big carts that you could move, roll it to the next room. And I started working bigger, and that really made a big difference. I guess that was part of my leap into this abstract thing and that's what brought the totems, and that's what brought the hanging pieces, that I could do a lot of little pieces and make something that was bigger than me. And that was fun to do that. So.
Well, that to me is what makes it also very interesting, is that you can have a very large piece as a centerpiece and then use other different shapes and sizes around it to create an overall look. I mean, I guess that's kind of the thought process. If you got a bank that said, yeah, right behind the teller's desk, we've got this large, horizontal wall, and we really want to fill the wall with something that's bright and colorful.
I'll show you the one that I put in the bank. They wanted it on the side because the design was that was wider than tall. Okay. So this particular piece, it was what eventually went into the bank, but it went a little different than that. We spread it out more, and we took off the little polka dots and made another installation on a small wall.
Now,
like
did
that.
The bank say, Gene, here's the wall, and we want you to just create it, and here's maybe the color palette, or is it a collaborative effort?
Actually, I had an art show, and when an art consultant came, and she had already she's involved with a lot of different things. Okay. And she was looking for something for the bank, and she wanted something with color, and she liked my work, and so we started talking. And then she presented it to the president of the bank. Here's some ideas. I went and brought some things and showed them pictures, and then they chose this one. And then they also chose a hanging piece. One of those, and they like that one. So we just went over there and put them up, and it was great. It was exciting.
And it's a great testament to you and your artwork too, because now every time someone walks in there, they see that piece of artwork and all, and they, are able to learn a little bit more about you and go to your showings and all. Yeah. Well, it's been absolute fun to be with you and to have you on the show again today. Again, GeneBSmith.com. Go to the website, look at it. Give Jeannie a call. She's got her email address too, if you want to drop her an email. And all you Wildcats from Hammond High School that are watching the show and everything, drop a note to Jeannie and tell her you appreciated seeing her. And we've had a great time today.
Thank you, Stu. It's been great. And hopefully, same here. And I hope we'll see a bunch of those Wildcats at that last look reunion next May.
Getting together for another reunion. But you be well. The very best to Bob, and keep up with the great career. I'll keep following it, and I wish you the very, very best. And thanks for being my guest here on Someone You Should Know. So that'll do it for another show, and I hope everybody feels well, stay safe, stay well.
Thank you, Stuart.
Oh, you're welcome. And remember, be yourself, because everyone else is taken. See you next week. Bye.